environmental. Some of it is just, hey, where do I start with my, post military civilian life now that I only wear civvies and that sort of thing, and just open the possibilities, the art of the possible in a new way. And then also stay focused, right? So I was lucky enough. I came out, and yes, I started security guard, but I knew I wanted to get in tech at the time. Windows 2 was out, just to show them the date of kind of when I decided to do that. And I was lucky enough that a friend of mine got me in to a Canadian technology company. I actually started in shipping and receiving, and I got the job because basically military is just UPS with guns. We just move stuff from here to over here. So that was sort of my in, but then I moved up and through the sales and marketing ranks to eventually being the CEO of my own technology companies. And so I wanted to give people that opportunity that I was lucky enough to have. I wanted to kind of pay it forward and give that same sort of ability to others that I either served with or served the same cause that I did. So it's really about creating a new chapter. You don't have to shed. A lot of people like, oh, we'll never stop becoming soldiers. It's really about just the new chapter and applying all the great traits that we learned in the military and apply them to this new chapter. So I'll turn it over. Just a little bit of background. I actually ran into Lighthouse Labs because I used them to find young talent and new talent. And four of my people are actually five now. Sorry, five people. One I helped produce actually came from Lighthouse Labs program. And so I figured, hey, that's not going to reinvent the wheel. They have the capability to do it. I trust them, and it's an amazing program, and they have got amazing talent on their side. So I'm going to turn it over to Alex just to introduce you to Lighthouse Labs and a little bit about the program.
Sounds good. Thanks, Roland. So for anyone who's not familiar with Lighthouse Labs, we are basically just a technical education institution with a focus on data science and web development. We don't have courses in things like marketing or UX, UI. We stick very much to those two kind of topics. So for a little bit of history, we were founded in 2013 by a group of developers who thought that there had to be a better way to train people to become developers. And they noticed that there was this vast technical talent gap in Canada. So without having to go through a very lengthy 4-year university CS degree, they decided to build at the time, it was an 8-week boot camp. So since then, we've actually graduated over 3,000 developers into the Canadian market, which is an accomplishment we're extremely proud of. And we have increased our boot camp from 8 weeks to 12 weeks. So do you mind going to the next slide, Roland? Thank you. So here's a list of 8 of the most in-demand tech jobs in Canada in 2021, according to Randstad. So all of these jobs require either data or web development skills, which is why we have decided to offer 2 of our part-time courses in addition to the web development bootcamp as part of the Soldiers in Tech program. Next slide. Perfect. Okay, so data, or I should say Intro to Data Analytics is actually our first part-time course that we're offering. The course is 6 weeks in length. It's only 2 evenings a week, 3 hours per evening, and it is done pretty, it's not an asynchronous course, meaning you're just like watching somebody kind of teach and you keep up in your own time. It is a live course on Zoom, and you're expected to be there with your video on. So it's very, very hands-on. We've got a couple start dates coming up. We've got February 23rd to March 31st and February 27th to March 3rd. So one of those is a Tuesday, Thursday class, and the other is a Saturday, Sunday class, in case weeknights don't work for you. So being able to use data in your work is an extremely useful skill. So everyone has data, whether it's data sets from work, your screen time app that tells you how much time you spent on your phone, but not everybody knows exactly how to read that data and how to make useful decisions from it. So, from executives to early stage professionals, we all need to learn how to analyze and interpret data. It is by far one of the most in-demand skills in North America. And this part-time course will sort of help you get the most out of your existing data for better business decisions. So what are you going to learn exactly? So you're going to learn how to ask the right questions of your data to tackle business challenges, You're gonna determine what data should be collected in the first place, as well as like analyzed and combined based on your unique business goals. You're gonna learn to extract insights from your data to help you make more informed decisions. You're gonna learn how to ensure data quality to make sure that your data is giving you accurate insights. You will learn how to present your data-driven insights with impact so that you can present them effectively and share your findings with others. And most importantly, we make use of existing tools like Excel, Google Sheets, and Tableau so that you can learn to make use of data with whatever tools you have at your disposal. So we try and make our courses as tool agnostic as possible. So the second part-time course that we're offering is an introduction to front end with JavaScript. So this one is not on the data side, but it is on the web development side. So it's also 6 weeks, 2 evenings per week, 3 hours per evening, and it is very hands-on as well. So the dates for that one are February 18th to March 31st and February 27th to April 3rd. Same idea with the Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, Sunday. So this intro to front end course with JavaScript is a really good starting point if you're new to coding. So in 6 weeks, the idea is you'll go from no coding experience to structuring web pages with HTML, styling them with CSS, and adding dynamic functionality using JavaScript. So by the end of the 6 weeks, you're going to have a look at AJAX and API requests to enable your website to dynamically display information from other web services like Twitter, Google Maps, and others. So it's a good course if you, I say like one, if you're thinking of joining the web development bootcamp, but you're not too sure, don't have a ton of coding experience, or if you will probably work in some sort of like tech adjacent role. So whether you're a product manager, or project manager, or QA person, like something where you need to understand what the developers are saying and you need to be able to talk to the developers without actually doing the development yourself. And here is just some information on exactly what you're going to learn. So it's pretty much like Web Development 101. We are touching on some JavaScript in the latter half of the course. You'll be learning HTML, CSS, and jQuery as well, which is a very popular JavaScript library. Okay, and our third and final offering is our Web Development Bootcamp. So this is not a part-time course. This is a full 12-week bootcamp. It is easily 40 hours a week. Really, this should read 60 hours a week. There is about 70 hours of prep to do before. 70 hours is the most it will ever take you, but the idea is just to get everybody on the same page, but I'll talk about all of that later. We've got a couple cohort start dates coming up. So March 1st, that will end on May 21st, and then March 29th, which will end on June 18th. So this program is designed also for beginners, believe it or not. The goal of this program is to transform you into a professional developer. So you're going to come to understand coding logic using popular languages and frameworks like JavaScript and Ruby on Rails, while also learning to think like a programmer from building software or by building software from the ground up. There are 4 main components to this program that will launch you into your first junior developer role. So the first is obviously the technical training, which is the actual boot camp that you'll be doing. That is training in both front end and back end development. So you will graduate as a full stack junior developer. There is career services included in this as well. So there's going to be individual support and workshops to help you land your dream developer job. Most of our students have never worked in the tech field before, so their resumes need to look very, very different. And we're very used to that. We've had chefs go through our program, and we've had lawyers go through our program where like their resume just totally needs to be flipped on its side and just completely redone. So we're very used to doing stuff like that. There are final projects involved as well. So in your last 2 weeks of the 12 weeks will be final projects. So you're going to be working in groups to build some sort of web application. And there's also wellness support that Roland and Jen will talk about a little bit later. So here's just like a little timeline of how the 12 weeks are broken down for you. So the first 2 weeks can kind of be seen as fundamentals. So you're after the prep course, you're going to kind of in the first couple of days be reviewing that prep work that you've done, and then launching into some other basic kind of web development things. In week 3 through 5, you're going to be looking at backend. So servers, cookies, HTTP data structures. You'll have a week of front end. So again, HTML and CSS, and then a week of databases. So we're specifically looking at SQL and Postgres in those weeks. After that, you've got a week of midterms. Oh, sorry, Roland. After that, you've got a week of midterms, and you're also going to be working in groups for that. I believe you're going to be building a restaurant takeout app. And it's a great week because it's the first time you're kind of working in groups. You're learning how to work as a team in a developer setting. And you're also just realizing how much you've learned in the last 6 weeks. Week 7 and 8 is where you're going to be launching into React, which is notoriously difficult. Those are the 2 toughest weeks of boot camp, but very, very important for Canadian companies when they're looking to hire developers. React is definitely one of those skills that they're looking for. After that, you'll be doing 2 weeks of Ruby and Ruby on Rails. Also pretty, like if you want to work for Shopify, that is the language of their choice, Airbnb as well. And then again, weeks 11 and 12 will be your final projects. So what are you going to be able to create? So our curriculum was created to simulate a real developer's job environment. So you're going to be exposed to industry relevant technologies and then immediately reinforce that knowledge by building applications and completing daily programming projects. So examples of that are you're going to start pair programming pretty much in week 2. And that's in order to expose you to looking at other people's code. You're going to be problem solving and debugging. That is probably the most important skill to acquire as a developer. And the goal of this whole program is to get you as job ready as quickly as possible. We know that most of the learning you're going to do is in the year after boot camp on the job. But for now, we want to make sure that you have the portfolio to get that job in the first place. So some of the projects that you're going to be able to add to your GitHub and your portfolio will be like we call it Tweeter, and it's a Twitter clone, Tiny app, which is a bit.ly like URL shortener, and a couple other kind of projects like that. And then that's in addition to the midterm project, as well as your final project that you'll be presenting at Demo Day to add to that portfolio. So these are just sort of the 5 main points that you really need to remember about boot camp and how we teach. So the first is that it's extremely hands-on. You probably guessed that from all of the projects that I talked about. You will only have 2 hours of lecture per day at most. That the lecture starts at 10 a.m. and ends at 12, and then the rest of the day and early evening will be spent on just working on your projects. So another really important point is mentor help. So you're going to have on-demand access to mentors for 8 hours per day, and that also includes Saturday. So the only day where you won't be able to have mentorship help is on Sunday. So anytime you have a question, there's a button in our learning management system that just says request assistance, and you'll be able to have a mentor kind of pop into a Zoom meeting within about 10 minutes or so. The reason we have such extensive mentor help is because the program is extremely fast paced. So we are looking at 10-hour days with that 60 hours of prep work. And we want to make sure that you don't get too stuck on, things like there's a semicolon missing or something like that. So that's why we do have the mentors there to help you. The last thing is the program is entirely online. So we've got fully remote mentorship, lectures, and engagement. That being said, you are expected to sort of be in lecture with your video on to emulate that classroom environment as much as possible.
And just to add to this is one of the things, especially for military people, even the call of a boot camp, it is very intense, very similar to the pace at which our training is run, right? The length of the day, what is covered. The only thing you don't have in this is PT. So it runs very, very similar. It's in this lesson you will learn, and very nice and structured. So it should feel very comfortable. It is a full day as we would have in the military and any of our training courses. But the nice thing with this is this really condenses what you would normally have to do in a 4-year university course at at one of the universities, and condenses it down to 3 months, making the same kind of money. And I can vouch for this, the same kind of money you would after a 4-year course. And really what we're looking at for junior developers is just they have the ability. The diploma, which you still get a certificate out of this, is kind of secondary. And what you come out of this is also the portfolio, because you've done this work, you have the restaurant app and stuff like that. You can actually show, here are things that I built and I coded. And so really you're kind of going in front of the line because it's also more practical. So when you look at it, you actually have a leg up in a shorter period of time, with the same opportunities that a 4-year university student would have, which I love, right? It's really, really good. And our averages and salary are just going up, which I think kind of leads to some of this conversation, which is the numbers.
Yeah, so these are the two numbers that we look at Lighthouse. So we have a 93% employment rate within 120 days of graduation. That is in a fully paid junior developer job. And the average salary that we see, it's actually a little bit higher than that now, but it's $53,000, and that's the first average salary post boot camp. So what that means is folks who have never coded before, at the end of the 12 weeks, we sort of suggest that they take a co-op position. That co-op position is at a salary of $53,000. After about 3 to 6 months, what tends to happen is you get hired on full time, and the salary increases significantly from that. But in your co-op role, that is what the salary looks like. And really what it's just ensuring that you're going to have the mentorship available at your new job, as this is going to be very new for you.
So I can also talk to, obviously we hired out of this program. Group Buy is a company that I founded here in Toronto. We're about 80 people full-time, and we have probably another 40 that are part-time. Clint, who also was on Breakfast Television with us about his story, we ended up hiring him at my company. So I stayed out of the way as not to cause any nepotism, but at the same time, we can validate all of these numbers are very reasonable. I think Clinton's slightly above these numbers, and so the opportunity here is within 2 or 3 years as well. A intermediate developer, right? So once you put it in, can make upwards of 120,000 a year. So there's a lot of quick mobility, both in what you're learning on the job, but also the salary that you command. So the future. And by the way, like a senior developer, we pay 180,000 a year for a senior. So that might be 5 to 10 years, depending on how well you acclimatize to being a developer. But really, and Google pays some of their developers even beyond that. But I'm giving you kind of industry norms, that if you work for a company like ours, or any of the Fortune 500 companies, or a Google or a Facebook. So lots of opportunity, which is why I'm excited about this as a next career path. Back to you, Alex, about the career services, which I think this is a great part of it. This is what we first latched into when we partnered with Lighthouse.
Yeah, and software developers are in such high demand that, to add to this, the topic of the co-op, it's that companies are willing to hire you and pay you to train you. So we're trying to capitalize on that at Lighthouse a little bit. So a large part of this program is the career services program. Our guiding belief is that most of your training will be learned on the job, and that your first year working as a software developer can be seen as paid, highly intensive training, as I've said. So the main function of CS is to help you land your first job as a developer. So what are they going to do? They're going to be working behind the scenes to send your resume out and promote you to employers any chance they get. They're going to be helping with scheduling and following up on interviews on your behalf. Starting in week 5, they're going to host workshops like resume writing, resume reviews, and technical interview workshops as well. And they're there just to provide support and advice on situations like networking, relocation, and salary negotiation.
Good. So on top of the mentors, so you have your technical mentors, which are available 8 hours a day. It's an amazing program. You get stuck. you always have the phone a friend, right? It's kind of like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, right? You can use your phone a friend all the time, which is really awesome. But we also know that we want to do mentoring that, some of the, days might be a little intense and you just need to talk to someone and get that positive reinforcement. We do have, counselors as well, people who are actually qualified and went to school for that sort of stuff on the psychology side. So we really have multiple levels of mentoring from the foundation itself. You will definitely be getting calls from me. But then depending on what you may or may not be dealing with, we have multiple levels then there as well. People like Noah, who was, helped out in the last cohort quite a bit as well. Also, guiding and advising from a mental health perspective as well. So we want to make sure that it's got all the levels of support, give you everything you need to be successful. And we'll be, very, very involved as we go through, checking in on you. It's never a bother. Like, hey, something's coming up or a personal issue comes up. Let us know. We might have ways to help, and we've definitely had a few people lean on it for that resolve. So this is a core part of the delivery outside of the normal piece. Eligibility is quite straightforward. If you have the want to do this and you have military service, pretty much that's all it is. It can be reg force, it can be reservists, as long as you served, and that you're either on your way out of being discharged or you're discharged. That would give you the qualification. And really, it's just a passion. If this is something that excites you, both from a career and whatnot, or even just an income perspective, that's really what we need to get you on board with the program. The application process is fairly straightforward. I have actually been through it. So I actually went through the boarding process, including doing the homework, which is great because I work in technology, and it was a great refresh. And it's fairly, you got to dedicate about 60 hours to it to go through it in total. But it's I found it very, very helpful. The interviews were easy. They were very friendly. You're also getting to see other people that are non-military people. It's mixed together. So it's nice that we do have some civilian as we go through the boarding process, to see other people have the same reservations or concerns and stuff like that. And what you're going through is definitely not unique. So it's always good having that, that sort of bonding with others that are going to be on the course as well. And you meet some very interesting people from across Canada, which is great. The last call, we had people from BC, Alberta, Toronto, and the East Coast. I think we had a Nova Scotia person as well. So you got to see that a lot of people are retooling themselves, and some of them were accountants, like Alex said, some of them were lawyers. So really we see all kinds, engineers, and of course veterans. So this is a good thing. And then you go from a group sort of interview to a one-on-one interview once you've created it. We do a test, and it's not really like a pass-fail test in that sense. It's just to make sure that you've learned enough of the basics and grasp it so that you're going to be successful in the program. We have had people that things come up and maybe the first one, there's a bit of nerves or something like that. That's okay. We do assess that. We kind of then help you with the pieces you need, and we can do it again. So don't think it's like, oh my God, I'm going to have this thing and I might blow it. Don't have that. Let all those sort of negative thoughts don't go through your head. And then once that's all done, then we board you on to the program and slot you in for one of the cohorts. So we're going to pause there. I'm sure that, we were a little fast and furious, but if you have any questions, we'd be happy to just open the floor and answer them, learn a little bit more about you, and make sure that you've got all the information that you need. So Luke and Rob, if you want to